Let's say this is your emergency money, okay? Short term. Should that money be safe? I would suggest very strongly that you put it someplace safe. Should it be liquid? Well, sure, because if it's tied up, how are you going to take care of that sudden emergency or that short-term need that you have? So don't put it in long-term CDs or anything like that. We always have a compromise, and the compromise on your emergency or short-term reserve is growth. Hey folks, Colin Richards here. I'm president and founder of Lord & Richards, and I am so excited to be with you today, continuing a mini-series in this particular episode of the Lord & Richards Show on 3 kinds of money, how to achieve financial independence using the simple tool we call 3 kinds of money. And in my previous segment, I explained why the old traditional method of kind of lumping all your money together, taking out the advised 4% rule, was no longer valid. That rule will not assure you, it will not give you a high degree of confidence that you will never run out of money. It is a generic rule that was designed in a different era, in the 90s. Having experienced major market crashes multiple times, my clients are looking for greater security and assurance that their money's going to last. Well, how are you going to do that, Colin? Well, the first thing we're going to do is determine the purpose of money in your portfolio. If you want to be financially independent in retirement and never have to go back to work and fully support your lifestyle, first we have to divide up your money into 3 kinds of money. That first kind, the very first bucket, if you will, sometimes people say bucket, we're going to call emergency or short-term money. This bucket of money is designed to provide for those things that come up in the short term, whether they be emergencies or fun things like, oh, we're going to take a vacation next month, or I need to buy a vehicle, or, drat, I had a water heater go out, or my dishwasher. I've had all these things happen. And what you need to have is money that is available. So we've got 3 things we can emphasize, 3 things we can compromise, okay? That's safety, liquidity, and growth. Safety, liquidity, and growth. So let's say this is your emergency money, okay? Short term. Should that money be safe? I would suggest very strongly that you put it someplace safe. Should it be liquid? Well, sure, because if it's tied up, how are you going to take care of that sudden emergency or that short-term need that you have? So don't put it in long-term CDs or anything like that. We don't want it tied up. We want it completely liquid. So safe and liquid. Guess what we're going to have to compromise on? You say, wait a minute, Colin, I want all 3, safety, liquidity, growth, all of it. Well, that's la-la land. That's perfection, and it doesn't exist in finance or any other area. We always have a compromise, and the compromise on your emergency or short-term reserve is growth. Now, right now, there is a window of opportunity for savers. As I've been saying for quite some time now, with interest rates high, wow, we're smacking borrowers, aren't we? It's hard to buy a house and get a good rate, hard to buy a car and get a good rate, but it sure is easy to go out and get a good rate on a savings account. By the way, if your savings account isn't paying anything, go shop around. I just opened one with American Express for 4.25%. You can find those in better deals. Money markets are paying over 5%. You don't even need to tie up your money in a certificate of deposit, what I call a certificate of disappointment. Okay? So protected and safe, liquid, and compromised on growth. Although right now rates on liquid safe money are better than they've been in a long, long time. Answer this question. Should we put all of our money in an emergency fund? You know, if you're planning for Disney World, should we just go ahead and pile all the money in that same place we're planning for Disney World? Probably not, because that compromise of low growth is going to hurt us in other important areas of our life. Emergency funds are important. We need to accept that they're not going to get the same level of growth, but it shouldn't be our only place. And I've seen people do this. As a matter of fact, people react during markets and they throw all their money in cash and they forget cash is for our emergency money. It is not an investment, okay? So don't put all your money in checking. Don't tell us to pull all your money and put it in cash. You need to just do that on your own. If you're going to do it, you don't need advice. You're doing something completely separate from a financial independence journey. So cash should be a very small part of the overall picture. Typically, in your bank, savings accounts, money markets, we recommend 3 to 6 months of your ordinary expenses. 3 to 6 months. So if your budget is generous and $10,000 a month, you might want to have a minimum of $30,000 in savings. You say, oh, well, Colin, I've got $150,000. What should I do? Well, we probably need to look at our next bucket over to the right, which is going to be our growing reserve. Because we need more reserves than just 3 months. Would you agree? There are things that can happen in life, or things that are really expensive. Maybe you want to remodel your house. Maybe you're going to take all the grandkids on vacation, or maybe that car you're looking at is a lot more than $20,000 or $30,000. Well, we're going to connect to your emergency fund via electronic means what we're now going to call a growing reserve. A growing reserve. This is the second of 3 kinds of money. Growing reserve funds are different. They're similar to what you have gotten used to investing in all your working years. You can put money aside. I wouldn't typically recommend IRA or 401k money because, especially if you're younger, that money can be penalized if you take it out. But we know at the very least you're going to be taxed. So I recommend most of the growing reserve be after-tax money. Money that is what we call non-qualified, non-IRA, non-401k. So the goal here is to not trigger a massive taxable event in your growing reserve if for some reason you need to access that reserve. And we've got it connected to your bank account. Connected to your bank account. So if you let us know, hey guys, I've got something that's going to tap out my whole short-term reserve, I'm going to need to tap into that growing reserve, that long-term reserve, well, we can slide those funds over in just a day or two. You say, well, what makes up the growing reserve, Colin? Well, these are a little bit different. The purpose of these monies is to build and grow. It's not yet your income money. This is different. This is your reserve, but it's just larger than what you keep in the bank account, and it's designed to grow. Notice I said growing reserve. So it's money designed to grow that's not in the bank, and it's still a reserve. So that means it stays liquid. Well, guess what our compromise is? If we have 3 things we can emphasize or compromise, safety, liquidity, or growth, and we choose growth and liquidity for this particular bucket, then we're going to compromise on safety. We're going to be at risk. And this, by the way, is where most of my radio audience is, who are not yet clients of Colin Richards. Most of your money is at risk. But I always ask this question: if we plan to retire securely and never run out of money before we run out of life, should all of our money be at risk? Every single time people say, well, no, it shouldn't. But they're confused about what risk is. You might think, well, gold isn't risky. Oh, yes, it is. You might think, oh, real estate isn't risky. Oh, yes, it is. Let's go back in time to 2007. People lost massive amounts in real estate. So most investments come with risk. And so what I'm going to talk to you about in our next segment is how to tame this growing reserve. So although it's designed to grow and be liquid, it still has risk. We're going to have to do something to make sure your risk is not unlimited. Well, folks, as I'm walking through the different kinds of money, all this information is on my YouTube channel, my podcast channel, or the best way to review this is to sit down with my team and we'll take you through a process we call a financial independence review. I would love to talk to you. My team and I would love to visit with you. It simply starts with a phone call.